As a father, there is nothing more devastating than losing a child. And when my son died under such mysterious and horrifying circumstances, I knew that I would never be able to fully recover from the grief and trauma. My son, Michael, had been so excited to open his gifts on Christmas morning, and he had been full of energy and enthusiasm all day. But on the day after Christmas, I noticed something odd: an unopened gift sitting on the coffee table. It was wrapped in bright red paper and tied with a shiny silver ribbon, and there was no card or note attached. I asked my wife and our neighbors and relatives whether they had given us this gift, but no one seemed to know anything about it. We had no idea where it had come from, or who could have sent it. Despite our confusion and fear, I left the gift untouched, not wanting to risk opening it and unleashing whatever evil might be inside. I had a feeling that something was off about this gift, and I couldn't shake the sense of dread that I felt whenever I looked at it. But I had no way of knowing that this unopened gift would be the source of such unimaginable horror and devastation. On the night of the day after Christmas, I woke up to a loud noise coming from the living room. I sat up in bed, my heart racing, and listened as the noise grew louder and more frenzied. It sounded like something was tearing and clawing at the furniture, and I knew that I had to investigate. I slipped out of bed and made my way cautiously to the living room, trying to stay as quiet as possible. When I got there, I was greeted by a sight that filled me with horror. The gift had been opened, and my son was lying on the floor, his body partially eaten away by some kind of horrific creature. I couldn't believe what I was seeing: the bite marks on my son's body, the blood that had been splattered all around the room. I was in shock, unable to move or even think clearly. All I could do was stare at the scene in front of me, my mind racing with questions and fears. Finally, I snapped out of my trance and called the police, hoping that they could help me figure out what had happened. They arrived quickly, and I watched as they examined the scene, taking photos and collecting evidence. It was all a blur, and I couldn't seem to focus on anything. All I could think about was my poor son, lying there on the floor, his body mangled and mutilated. As the police worked, I noticed something odd: the note that was inside the gift box. It read, "This is what you get when you're on the naughty list. And don't forget, it's hungry." I had no idea what the note meant, or what kind of creature we were dealing with. All I knew was that our lives had been forever changed by this tragedy. As the days passed, I found myself consumed by grief and guilt. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow responsible for what had happened, and I couldn't escape the memories of that terrible night. I knew that I had to do something to stop this cycle of horror and death, but there was no sign of the creature. It had escaped, leaving behind only destruction and devastation in its wake. I was left to deal with the aftermath of the tragedy, trying to find some way to move on and make sense of what had happened. But even now, as I sit here and write this story, I can't shake the feeling that I am being watched. I can't escape the memories of that terrible night, and the fear that the creature will come back for me and my family. I know that I will never be able to truly rest until I find out the truth about what happened to my son, and why this evil was unleashed upon us.